Hello and welcome to NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center and delighted to be joined with Dedi with her movie Take Good Care. Let's take a look at the clip.
There's clearly been a mistake.
You're 65 tomorrow. Time to depart.
I'm working on a groundbreaking new therapy.
A therapy for immortality.
The sisters must have caretakers.
Sorry, no one said anything about caretakers.
Dedi, thank you so much for being here and thank you for bringing your film to NewFilmmakers LA and welcome to the family.
Thank you. I love being here. I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too. Thank you. For those that haven't seen your film, tell us a brief synopsis.
Take Good Care is a sci-fi dramedy. It takes place in a world where people over the age of 65 are asked to quietly depart, i.e. die. And a single-minded scientist, desperate for more time, needs to ask her long-neglected daughter to take good care of her because caretakers are required in this world. Only she isn't exactly telling her daughter the complete truth about everything she's up to. So it's a story of aging, ambition, and the mysteries of family and love.
Dedi, it's a brilliant story. Like, it's always so refreshing when you see something, you're like, I've never seen this before. I've never seen this idea. This is amazing, you know? But also, like, you know, life starts at 65 for many people, you know? It's where it's the beginning. So it's such a brilliant story. It has so much context to it. Where did the inspiration for this particular story take place? And when was that kind of moment for you where you wanted to turn this into a film?
Yeah, great questions, and thank you. So there's two different places of inspiration for me. One of which was I was doing a freelance job up at Biotech Bay in San Francisco, and all the people around me were neuroscientists working on longevity solutions, essentially.
Really?
And I just started to think about A, do I really want to live forever?
Yeah.
Who does? B, why would I want to live forever? Like, you start asking yourself these really big questions, like, what is life about? Anyway, what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
And then C, everybody I know, kind of assumed at a certain point that 65 is the age you retire, and then, maybe there's like another 10, 20 years after that, that's it. But with the advances of science and medicine, we're now living much longer than that.
Yeah.
And not only are we living, to 100 now, but they're saying we're going to live to 120, 150 in the future. I don't think people are actually thinking through all the ramifications of having a lifetime that's 3 times as long.
That's insane.
As, what you would think it would be, and the ramifications of how we take care of each other, how we live those lives, what we value in terms of people over the age of 50. Like, I think all this is going to shift. So part of it was just like, ooh, this is a really funky thing to explore through these characters. The second part of it was that when I first got out to LA, I would say, like, within 2 years, my mom got sick. So I had to go home and take care of her. And, at first I thought, oh, this is going to be like one of those illness movies. And the person's dying and they can't communicate and you're like crazy. And that wasn't the way. Again, it just wasn't the way it went at all. My mom was communicative up until the very end. And back to my whole, like, what's the meaning of life? What's this all about?
Yeah.
Like, you start to really think about the fact that we just don't know people at all. And sometimes we just don't even know them up until the very end. Like, you're constantly learning things. And and I started to think about, like, that's what love is.
Yeah.
Love is not assuming, intention or any of these other things. It's like this openness to always learning where the other person is coming from and why they made the decisions they did. And
And so it's amazing. I'm just in it because I'm like, how life could be so different, or and sometimes we're triggered by certain things that happen in our lives that take ourselves in different directions. Now, in the case of the story, like, it really is a fascinating story. Like, I mean, honestly, it was from start to finish. I was like enthralled by these characters that you created, and this world that you created. So you had some very good actors in this film, and and they really you know, you could really feel a lot of energy and experience, but also like, you can't help but watch this film and think, goodness me, what would it be like if I was in that situation as well? Yeah. Firstly, how do you go about bringing your wonderful cast together? And secondly, how do you go about directing a piece like this? Because it's a little different.
Yeah, okay, great questions again. So the cast, you know, honestly, people have asked me that and I really don't know the answer. I am a writer first and foremost in many, many ways. My whole background is writing, and I got into this because I got so excited about production while I was on a writing fellowship. So I just come from like, I'm trying to make a great story and create great characters that actors want to play, and I feel like it's got to start there because, you know, yeah, you can be friends with an actor, but they're not necessarily going to do your piece unless they actually see themselves in it. And I would just say I got freaking lucky, you know, that Molly Hagan, who, as you know, has an incredible background and is currently, you know, second or third on the call sheet on the show she's on, Walker. She read it, and we just like kind of had a mind meld, you know, like she saw even more in that mom that I could see, because in some ways I tried to make it a two-hander, but in many ways I'm coming from the daughter's perspective, not the mom's. And but she like immediately latched straight into the mom, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll do this." I was like, "Really? Are you sure?" She was like, "Yeah." So, you know, sometimes it's just that. It just, your script speaks to a specific actor. Yeah. And I'm actually trying to learn to write more toward that, because I feel like it creates from the beginning this working relationship of just being on the same page. You know what I mean? So the questions she asked back to me about the character were so freaking smart, you know? And it was actually the same thing with Veronica. Like, Veronica's amazing. She actually lives in New York. She flew out here to do it. She grew up the child of people with like scientist MD backgrounds.
Wow, okay.
So again, it was almost like, I felt like she knew the character better than I did. You know, she just plugged right into it. And then, you know, working with Molly, they kind of, I had made, you know, let's go out for lunch. That thing you're taught to do. Yes. And they kind of developed that relationship themselves that, you know, kind of took off from, I think, their own work. Yeah. Because as a director, you obviously do a ton of work, but as a writer-director, you've already done a ton of work. But ultimately, like, they do their own work and they bring their own things, and you're trying to honor that.
Well, credit to you, because I mean, you firstly, fantastic writer. I mean, you know, you've given, you know, actors some really, I mean, it's so nice when there's a part, obviously, that's got you in mind, but even better when the script is so good that you want to be partaken, because it's different, it's unique, and you can feel you can put your stamp on it. So, you know, well done to you as a writer, firstly. Now, I'm always curious when you're mixing the genre of sci-fi and creating a new world, and what that experience is like. How has this kind of maybe been different from other projects that you work on? How is it bringing that kind of sci-fi element? Any advice you can give to anybody else out there who's in a similar situation of making a sci-fi film too?
So yeah, what I was going to say is, you hit the nail on the head. Low-budget sci-fi filmmaking is not easy by any stretch. You really have to put sort of limits and conditions on yourself in terms of like, okay, does it have to be FX? You know, can I not write that piece that is the VFX? And, or, you know, can I figure out a way to do it practically or cheaply or whatever? But you know what? We have such an amazing community here in LA, and I'm so grateful to them. Not only to like my costume designer who took our non-existent budget and just ran with it. Production designer who really helped me figure out like, oh, it's a spa setting. Yes, all these, you know, sort of rejuvenation clinics now are spa settings. That's what we're going to go for. It's like, oh yes, okay, and that's actually an inexpensive design.
It's brilliant. It's a good idea though. Really good idea. The spa setting.
Down to the fact that like, so you know, we have that kind of stunt. I'm not supposed to call it a stunt. SAG, it's not a stunt. Yes, it's SAG. In the film with the, you know, the liquid spilling out, because I felt like there had to be something. It was a sci-fi piece. And I just got on like a Facebook group and I said, here's my problem. I have no idea how to do this. All the little pressurized things I'm trying to use to generate this squirt are either too small or way too big. Like we'd actually have to have a coordinator on set for that. And people just gave me ideas.
That's amazing.
And, you know, like go off to Home Depot, get this, you know, link it up with, you know, a hose, and then mix some powdered milk with white stuff so that it looks kind of like our cloudy bodily fluids. And, you know, so I just feel like we live in a time where you can find an answer to anything if you're resourceful.
Well, thank you, Home Depot, and thank you, Facebook. There you go. That's partially, that's amazing. Listen, I think firstly, your film is very entertaining to watch, like first and foremost, and it's always special to see your film on the big screen as well. Like you realize how much film's on a big screen when you see it at a film festival. Like yes, and for the audience to really get enthralled by it. You know, adding to that, I'm always so curious especially when you wrote the film as well. Like, what did you want your audience to experience from your film?
I mean, that's a great question because I think I was saying to you yesterday, or maybe I wasn't, I don't remember. But one of the challenges, and again, this starts with the writing of sci-fi, is that you have to make that really big question in your head, like, what is the meaning of life? Why should we keep living, you know, past a certain age? And you have to really translate that into a character journey and experience. And you have to translate that into something that will emotionally touch the audience. Like, it can't just be like, okay, I asked this question and everybody thought that was a brilliant question to ask. You have to, you know, like in Ex Machina, you have to make them really, really feel the threat from the AI robot.
That's
you know?
true. That's true.
And just like, you know, both like the way in which this man is falling in love with her and then feels intimidated by her. And
Absolutely.
Then, you know, you have to go on that emotional journey with your character. And same thing, like, I'm a huge Oppenheimer fan. I don't know if that's shifting any cards. But, you know, I feel like what Nolan got so greatly right in this film is that he really, really understood the dilemma, you know, that Oppenheimer had. Both as a Jew who didn't want to see any more horrible things visited on his people in World War II, and as an American citizen who didn't want to be unleashing, you know, atomic power in this way. Anyway, you have to bring it back to that character dilemma and character journey. And so what I really wanted the audience to feel was, in a way, the selfishness of the daughter in, like, Mom, what about my fellowship? Like, her mom's dying and she's concerned about, you know.
Worried about her whole,
And also the mom's dilemma in knowing that, you know, she's trying to do this thing for her daughter, and does she tell her daughter, like, is that going to change her daughter's life? So really putting you in that sort of mother-daughter struggle of having an aging parent, because everybody you talk to who has to do some kind of caretaking, it's devastating. Like, somebody is sacrificing their life. Often unpaid, they are sacrificing their life for somebody they love. So I wanted to put people in that experience of both, you know, like I said, the complexity of love, how you love somebody and you hate them and you're torn on and you want to help them and you want to be there for them, but you have your own life. And it was funny, I think I mentioned when we did our individual screening, it was almost like I could pick out the people in the audience who'd had the caretaking experience and the people who couldn't.
Wow.
Because the ones who had were crying. You know, and that's kind of what I wanted, to answer your question. I wanted the people to just have some kind of catharsis about the whole thing, because it isn't easy and it isn't simple, and there's a million decisions you're making that
100%.
Are hard. And like I said, we are going into an even more thick of this with everybody living longer.
Absolutely, I know it's gonna, especially if we're going to, you know, living older as well. But I think that's such an important fact as well, to have, you know, kind of an empathetic lens for those people that have experienced it, but also for anyone that hasn't. You're probably likely going to experience it at some point in your life. You know, it may feel like far away, but you just never know in life what life is going to deliver you. But I also just want to say as well, that in terms of what you said about the sci-fi, you know, you really got this. You really did that ticking clock really well that you have in sci-fi, where it's a race against time and the conflicts and all those things. You did so timely, so perfectly. What is next for you, Dedi?
Well, that's a good question. So I have 2 features. One is more ready to go than the other. It's a female-forward heist movie that I wrote during the pandemic, just to be like super fun. And the other is the feature version of Take Good Care. But as I was telling you, it was actually one of your speakers. This is a great program, people. It's so amazing. I've never, you know, like, every festival is a learning experience, but you guys are really trying to help us learn to level up.
We can't do it without you, though, so keep making great movies.
And one of your speakers was talking about, you know, just a really I forget how he put it, but it was like digging deeper into your genre. Like even when you're creating that proof of concept trailer, like make sure you really, really understand what it means to make a piece in your genre.
Yeah.
Because the better you can communicate that in that 2-minute trailer, the better off you are in terms of finding support for it. And I came up with an idea after that talk that I'm really excited about. It's another grounded sci-fi piece, but I think it's doable and it's easy to explain, like how doable it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I still come, sort of from the too big side of things.
Yeah.
And this, I feel like, could really hit the mark for a reasonable budget, so.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, firstly, thank you for bringing this film to us. We're very excited the idea of both, well, the extended, the feature version, excuse me, and also your other feature as well, but also through your lens. Like, you have such a infectious personality that it's lovely to see your writing and your style, put into filmmaking. So thank you very much, really. But listen, welcome to the New Filmmakers LA family. We'll never leave you alone, sadly. We'll support you all through your career, but thank you for bringing this wonderful film to us, and we're excited to see your next project, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. You guys, like I said, I can't thank you enough. This whole experience has been amazing.
Thank you, everybody.